Hello. Don't forget to like and subscribe before starting the video. Who is George W. Bush? George W. Bush was born on July 6, 1946, in New Haven, Connecticut. He is the eldest son of former President George H.W. Bush and his wife Barbara Bush. Bush grew up in Texas, where his family moved when he was a child. After graduating from Yale University with a degree in history, Bush worked in the oil industry and then went on to pursue a career in politics. He served as the governor of Texas from 1995 to 2000, before running for president in 2000. Bush was elected as the 43rd President of the United States in a highly contested election against Al Gore. He served 2 terms in office, from 2001 to 2009. His presidency was defined by major events such as the September 11 attacks, the War on Terror, and the 2008 financial crisis. George W. Bush was born into a prominent political family, and his upbringing was marked by privilege and opportunities that many people don't have. He attended prestigious schools, including Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts, and Yale University, where he was a member of the secret society Skull and Bones. In 1994, Bush ran for governor of Texas and won, becoming the first person in Texas history to be elected to the position with a majority of the vote. He was re-elected in 1998, and during his time as governor, he implemented policies such as education reform and tax cuts. The 2000 presidential election was one of the most highly contested in American history. George W. Bush, the Republican candidate, faced off against Democratic nominee Al Gore in a race that came down to a few key swing states. Ultimately, the election was decided by the Supreme Court, which ruled in Bush's favor after a recount of the votes in Florida. Throughout the campaign, Bush focused on several key issues that resonated with voters. One of the biggest was tax cuts. Bush promised to cut taxes for all Americans, which appealed to many voters who were looking for relief from high taxes. He also focused on health care, proposing a plan to expand access to health insurance and reduce the cost of prescription drugs. On that fateful day, terrorists hijacked 4 commercial airplanes and flew them into the World Trade Center in New York City and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. Nearly 3,000 people were killed in the attacks, making it the deadliest terrorist attack in American history. In response to the attacks, Bush declared a war on terror and launched military operations against Al-Qaeda, the terrorist organization responsible for the attacks. This included the invasion of Afghanistan in 2001, which overthrew the Taliban government and sought to dismantle Al-Qaeda's network in the country. Bush also implemented a number of domestic security measures, including the creation of the Department of Homeland Security and the passage of the USA Patriot Act, which gave law enforcement agencies more tools to combat terrorism. However, the most controversial aspect of Bush's response to 9/11 was the decision to invade Iraq in 2003. The Bush administration claimed that Saddam Hussein, the Iraqi dictator, had weapons of mass destruction and was a threat to American national security. The invasion was highly controversial, with many critics arguing that it was unnecessary and based on false pretenses. The Iraq War became a defining issue of Bush's presidency and contributed to his declining popularity in his second term. The war dragged on for years, resulting in thousands of American and Iraqi deaths, and a financial cost of trillions of dollars. The decision to invade Iraq also undermined America's credibility on the global stage and led to widespread criticism of the Bush administration's foreign policy. By exploring the events of 9/11 and the War on Terror, viewers can gain a deeper understanding of the challenges that faced Bush during his presidency and the impact of his policies on the world stage. It is a crucial period in modern American history that continues to shape the political landscape today. During his presidency, George W. Bush pursued a domestic policy agenda that focused on several key areas, including tax cuts, education reform, and healthcare initiatives. One of the most notable aspects of Bush's domestic policy was his tax cuts, which he implemented shortly after taking office in 2001. These tax cuts were aimed at spurring economic growth and stimulating job creation. While they were controversial at the time, with some critics arguing that they disproportionately benefited the wealthy, they did have a positive impact on the economy. They contributed to a period of sustained economic growth, which lasted until the financial crisis of 2008. Another major aspect of Bush's domestic policy was education reform. He signed into law the No Child Left Behind Act in 2001, which aimed to improve the quality of education in America's public schools. The law set high standards for student performance and mandated regular testing to ensure that schools were meeting these standards. While the law was controversial, with some educators arguing that it placed too much emphasis on testing, it did lead to some improvements in student performance. Finally, Bush also pursued healthcare initiatives during his presidency, including the creation of the Medicare Part D prescription drug benefit. This program provided seniors with access to affordable prescription drugs, which was a major priority for many older Americans. However, the program was also criticized for its high cost and for failing to address the larger issue of rising healthcare costs in the United States. Overall, Bush's domestic policy had a mixed impact on the American economy and society. While his tax cuts contributed to economic growth, they also contributed to rising deficits and income inequality. His education reforms had some positive impacts, but also had some negative consequences. Similarly, his healthcare initiatives had both positive and negative aspects. Understanding these policies and their effects is crucial for understanding the legacy of the George W. Bush presidency. George W. Bush's presidency is one of the most consequential in modern American history. His legacy is a complex one, with both successes and failures that have had a lasting impact on American politics and society. One of Bush's key successes as president was his leadership in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. His response to the attacks, including the war on terror and domestic security measures, helped to prevent further terrorist attacks on American soil. He also oversaw a period of economic growth and job creation, which lasted until the financial crisis of 2008. However, Bush's presidency was also marked by significant failures. The most notable of these was the decision to invade Iraq in 2003, which was based on flawed intelligence and false pretenses. The war dragged on for years and contributed to the destabilization of the Middle East, with consequences that are still being felt today. Bush's presidency was also marked by controversy and divisiveness, particularly around issues such as the Patriot Act and his response to Hurricane Katrina. He faced significant criticism from both the left and the right, with some arguing that he was too aggressive in his foreign policy and others arguing that he did not do enough to address issues such as income inequality and healthcare reform. Today, Bush's presidency is viewed in a mixed light. While some see him as a strong leader who took decisive action in the face of significant challenges, others see him as a symbol of American imperialism and disregard for civil liberties. His legacy is likely to continue to be debated for years to come, with different groups interpreting his presidency in different ways. Ultimately, understanding the legacy of George W. Bush is important for understanding the trajectory of American politics in the 21st century. His presidency helped to shape the political landscape in important ways, both domestically and internationally, and his policies and actions continue to have an impact on American society today. In conclusion, George W. Bush's presidency was marked by significant events and policies that have had a lasting impact on American politics and society. From the 9/11 attacks and the war on terror to his domestic policy initiatives, Bush's presidency was characterized by both successes and failures. While his leadership during the aftermath of 9/11 and his economic policies are viewed positively by some, his decision to invade Iraq and the controversies surrounding his domestic policies have led to significant criticism from others. As we continue to grapple with the legacy of the Bush presidency, it is important to reflect on the lessons we can learn from his successes and failures. By engaging in thoughtful and respectful discussion, we can gain a deeper understanding of the complexities of his presidency and the impact it has had on our country. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it informative, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future.